Good afternoon and welcome to the Summer Fall 2024 Gideon's Garage Safety Briefing. We're glad you've taken some time to be with us today, and we've got a new briefing format to share with you, and we got some big news to announce also for the garage. So let's look here at our Summer 24 update. The waiting area is now opened and air conditioned, and if you've not been to the garage since that's been open, it has been a real blessing both for the people working and for the people having their cars worked on. As usual, to get your code at the conclusion of this briefing, send me an email to jmason2088@gmail.com with three things. Unfortunately, we ran out of mascots, so this time we're using cool cars, so be ready for 3 cool cars to write down. We need to know your desired service position for the garage event and a brief statement that says you agree to the garage policies. Now, here's a couple of special reminders. We want to encourage everyone to use the sign-in log. We feel that maybe more people are using the garage than are actually signing in, and it's really important for our records to have that. So please make sure you sign in. I'm wearing my Gideon's Garage shirt today to encourage you that when we have events, please wear your garage shirt, either this style or the older style, and those really cool hats that Tony got made for us. It's just really nice for people to be able to see the volunteers and identify who's there to help. There's a new trailer. You can see in the bottom of the picture there's a small utility trailer. Some of the guys worked on it. My dad replaced some of the boards on it and the wiring. I think Craig worked on the wheel bearings. John Timlin did some welding. Dan McQuay helped with the project. But that trailer is available for Farley Community Church members to use. All we ask is you let us know when you're going to use it, and most people have been putting in a $20 donation into the Gideon's Garage Fund. They just slip it in the offering plate, and that's a lot cheaper than renting a trailer anywhere in town. So if you would like to use that trailer, just let us know. We're glad to have you use it. So we mentioned in the introduction that we're doing a new format, and today, instead of going through all the access procedures, we know that those can be easily watched in the old videos. So if you need that, just go back and check it. But instead, we looked at our receipts of what we have been working on, and most of our jobs are oil changes or brake repair. And so we're going to give you some tips on how to do those jobs better, and also some potential gotchas to watch out for. Do not think for a second that I can give you a full tutorial on how to do these jobs. Just think more of these as tips for you guys. So let's talk about oil changes. Before you start draining the oil out of the car, make sure you have the correct oil and filter. If you're not sure, Sergeant Major Google. You'll see that a lot today. I recommend putting cardboard on the shop floor. I know that I spill frequently, and many others spill as well. So please put cardboard down. Verify that the jug you're going to fill up with oil is not already filled up. We try to empty those at the beginning of each event, but sometimes we don't have time. So make sure that there's room for your oil. Best practice to use a 1/2-inch drive ratchet and the appropriate socket to loosen the drain plug. If you feel like that plug is stripped, do yourself a favor. Don't wail on it. Go get one of the event leads, one of the bay leads, so that they can help you, and let's determine a good strategy on that stripped plug. Whenever you put the new filter on, make sure you put clean oil on the gasket. There's actually a picture of that on the slide. Very important step for your next oil change. When you put your oil filters on, just put them on hand tight. The way I like to remember is hand tight to put them on, and then use the tool to take them off, and you'll never have problems with an oil filter. When you tighten that drain plug, the typical spec on that is between 10 and 30 pounds, and the easy way to remember it is one hand to put it on, 2 hands to take it off. Verify, take the time to actually check. You can check with the owner or the bay lead, or you can again ask Sergeant Major Google the correct amount of oil. Just because you have a 5-quart jug of oil, you don't necessarily need 5 full quarts. Some of the older Hondas are 3.5, some of the newer V8s can be 8, or a diesel can be measured in gallons, so make sure you check that. Use a funnel. I know you think you're good at pouring, but just everybody does better with a funnel. We have plenty to choose from. We encourage you to use the buddy system when you do an oil change. Make sure that the filter's on correctly. Make sure that the drain plug is in. And if the car has an oil change reset system, please take the time to reset that so the person knows when their next oil change is due. Here's our oil change bonus tips. Always encourage you to check for leaks. Start the car up, look underneath it. We've had a couple of monumental leaks in the garage, so make sure you do that. The claw wrench, which we have a picture there in the top left, those are awesome for taking off oil filters. They almost always work. They're an excellent choice. Many of newer cars have cartridge systems and they require an O-ring, and yes, you should use a new O-ring each time. It should come with it, and the O-ring should be coated with oil just like you would on the filter. And at the bottom, I've got pictures of the Toyota filter system, and Brother Mike is shaking his head right now because he knows what we're talking about. If you have not worked on a Toyota for an oil change recently, make sure you talk to someone who knows. There's a picture there of the specific Toyota wrench. And if you own a Toyota, I highly recommend replacing the plastic housing with the metal housing, which I believe we did for you, right, Brother Mike? That's right. Okay, so here's our first car. Get your pencil out. You may know exactly what that car is right away. I've never seen one in real life, but that is a 1948 Tucker. So the first car you'll have in your email is a 1948 Tucker. I believe there's only 50 or so of those that were ever made. Awesome cars. Okay, now we're going to shift gears and talk about brake repair. We're going to focus on 3 aspects of the job: before the work starts, the actual brake job itself, and after the work is finished. And there's Jonathan Grace right there, I believe, working on brakes in that picture. So before the work starts, we want to encourage you guys to read the repair request. Make sure you understand the complaint from the customer. And then going forward, for all brake jobs, we want you to drive the car carefully in the church parking lot. Pay attention to how those brakes are working. Make note of, hey, is the pedal soft? Is there uncommon noises? Is it pulsing or pulling? When you complete that mini test drive, then talk to the bay lead about the issues that you find. We had one Saturday where we had multiple brake jobs that had problems, and we didn't have a good record if the pedal was soft before they came in. So we weren't sure if we had caused an issue or if the car had previous issues. And then before you start tearing the car apart, make sure we have the correct pads and rotors. If they're not here, make sure they're on the way. If something is unclear on a repair order, the owners will be waiting in the waiting area. We'll talk to them, or we've got their phone number so we can find out that information. Now, on the actual brake job, be sure to check the brake fluid level before you start and remove the cap. If you leave the cap on and you compress the pistons, you can actually cause damage. Then you remove the calipers or rotors, and when you do so, use the J-hooks. I've got a picture of them there on the slide, but they are a great way to make sure you don't put weight on the actual brake hoses. Pay attention to the orientation of the brake wear indicators. On that bottom pad, you can see the little metal indicator. Some cars have them on both pads. Some will have them on one side only, and some cars have none at all. But you want to make sure you get that right. We often have to go back and redo cars because there's noise because the wear indicators are in the wrong spot. A lot of times we get tickets that say, hey, I think my brakes are bad, and we look at the pads and we only look at the outer pad. We see it all the time where the outer pad looks in pretty good shape, but the inner pad is severely worn. So make sure when you're evaluating a brake system, you look at both pads. If during the test drive or the owner has complained that the rotor, that there's a pulsing or we can see visible damage, we will go ahead and replace the rotors. Believe it or not, usually it's more cost effective and certainly more time effective to replace the rotors these days than to get them turned. Continue on the brake jobs. You may or may not have seen this. I've only done one car with it, but some cars now have sensors in the brake pads. It's an easy thing to do. You just have to make sure the sensor's in place and then clip the wire and then reset the system. But be aware, don't be surprised when you see that. In that top picture, you can see that some brake pads can be changed if you just remove one of the bolts and roll the caliper out of the way. And that can really save you some time as opposed to removing the whole caliper. If there's new hardware provided, we recommend using new hardware and also lubricating that hardware. Especially on a brake job, be very careful about multiple guys working in and making sure that all the fasteners are in place and everything is tightened. It's good to use the buddy system, trust but verify. Friendly reminder, brake fluid is very corrosive and it will remove paint from cars. So if there is any brake fluid spilled, get it cleaned up immediately. And if we do end up replacing calipers, be aware that some calipers are left or right specific. Now, at the end of the brake job, we want to make sure that we fill the brake fluid to the appropriate level. Make sure that reservoir cap goes on. Don't let a car get out of here without that reservoir cap. Now, this next step is critical, and Craig has got a great story about this. So if you've not heard Craig's brake story, ask about when he worked at the dealership. But it is very important that before we move the car, we pump up the brakes to reclaim the pedal pressure. Do not try to drive a car without pedal pressure, and especially do not let one of the community members that comes in and gets their car worked on, let them drive a car without brake pressure. We need to all make sure that this is handled. That's why it's in all caps. When you get to talk to the owner of the vehicle afterwards, encourage him to do a break-in procedure for the new pads. Encourage him to not do panic stops. The brakes will work for them, but they need to take it easy on them. I recommend doing 10 60 mile an hour to 40 mile an hour slowdown. So that is, you go down the highway at 60, you slow down to 40. You speed up to 60, you slow down to 40. You do that 10 times and then try to drive 10 minutes without using the brakes or using them minimally. If you do that, that procedure will help your brake pads to last longer. Also, it's a good idea to remind the customer that new pads can smell a little bit, and that's totally normal. Usually that's done in the first 100 miles. Okay, get your pencils ready. Here's our second car. This is one I have actually seen in person. There's a couple of them in Huntsville. This little car, and I do mean little, it's tiny. I'm not sure Brother Mike and I could even fit in it. This is an AutoZam AZ1. You can just write down AZ1, but that is a Japanese market K car with gull wing doors. Really, really cool. If I had more space, I'd probably get one. Okay, moving on. So let's talk about our schedule. We've got a bunch of events coming up. Car Care Clinic in July, September, and November. Also Open Garage Day, August, October, and December. We continue to have our Wednesday garage nights. Those are always on the last Wednesday of the month. And again, everybody that's getting the garage code, we would like to see you at least one of these events or more each semester. Now let's talk about the events. These are some friendly reminders here. And this is a safety one, make sure that only active workers are under the lifts. We don't need more people under the lift than necessary. We continue to have a list of things we won't work on, or as we like to say, no workies. One of those is airbag work. We are not allowed to do airbag work. We do not remove spark plugs from any Ford modular V8, 4.6 or 5.4. The owner can remove those plugs, but we will not do it because they're so prone to problems. Also, we are unable to work on electric vehicles on their powertrain. We could potentially fix something inside the cabin, but we're not going to work on the powertrain because we're not trained on that. We must torque all lug nuts to spec. Don't guess, look it up. We have an all data subscription. If you want to know how to access that, let me know. Be very careful about how we speak about the cars. Sometimes the cars are pretty dirty. Sometimes the cars are actually lived in. We have made a policy for the guys that are taking the tickets that we will not disturb the owner's stuff. If there's something in the car that we need to get out, we go get the owner and let them go through their stuff. But please be very careful. The last thing we want to do is not have the chance to share the gospel with somebody because we offended them about their vehicle. We are trying to be very careful about the jobs we take and the amount of time we take. We look at all data and we try to determine jobs that are less than 2 hours. If it's more than 2 hours of shop time, we will not be able to get it done during our event, and we will stop taking tickets once we're full. On the slide here, it says between 10:30 and 11 on a Saturday. We had one Saturday that we were full by 9:15. So just be aware that we are trying to manage the number of jobs that we get. Please emphasize prayer. This is really what we're doing. We're not just fixing cars. We're here to minister to people. Let's find out what's going on. Let's invite them to church. Let's invite them to fellowship with us. Use this as an opportunity to share the gospel. And be aware that a lot of the guys that come and work, you may not recognize them right away because they don't go to Farley. They come from other churches, other faiths, other denominations. Well, I probably shouldn't say faiths, but other Christian faiths, and they may not even made a profession of faith in Jesus Christ yet. So minister to the guys you're working with also. Lastly, event responsibilities. We've gone over this in a lot of detail in the previous safety briefing, so if you want to check that out, you can. But we do need your help every time. There's a list on the right of all the positions from the trail hoss, the opener, the ticket taker. We have bay leads for each bay. We have cleaners and closers. We have people that help with hospitality. We have people that run parts. We have people that shop and stock the drinks. We have people that even just take pictures. Whatever you can do to help, we need your help. It's important to have a Farley presence at these events. We assign the positions in advance, and just let us know where you want to serve. That's one of the things you'll send with your email, along with this last not a mascot, it's a car. I'm so used to saying mascot. This is a Ferrari Dino, which is an awesome car. I've actually seen this particular car in person. You may be able to see in the picture or not. It has a very famous owner, one Elvis Presley. So very, very cool Ferrari Dino. That is our third car. So as we start to wrap up this briefing, here's your reminders. Send me an email, jmason2088@gmail.com with the following information. We need the 3 cool cars. We need to know what service position you want to volunteer for, the garage events, and a statement that says you agree to the garage policies. Please remember to use the sign-in log and wear your garage shirts. You'll get your new code via email, usually the same day. The new code will go into effect June 24th, and we'll shut the old code down on July the 1st. If you've not been signed off on the 2-post list before, talk to Jeff Schlegel, and now you have an access code. Thank you for everything you do to make Gideon's Garage a success. God bless you, brothers.